Today, our focus is on men's health and mindset. And why now? Why are we having these conversations? These conversations have always been happening, but through my business page Infusion, we not only do soft adventure and sporting activities, we do team building, we do lifestyle workshops, but we also focus on special events. In March, we focus on women's health, and in June, our focus is on men's health. So Shawn supports Beige Infusion as a project coordinator. And for me is whenever we put on things and I can include my team members with the brand, it makes sense. So because we're focusing on men's health, I found it very fitting to have Shawn on board to support the journey. And then our event that is happening on Saturday, Fitness Party, Shawn will be the DJ for that event as well. Shawn, so my first question to you is tell us a bit about yourself, the work that you do in mental health and counseling.
All right, so good evening. My name is Shawn Springer. I have a background in social work and I've worked with, in terms of mental health, I've worked with many individuals who might have been experiencing mental health challenges. I worked with substance abuse for over 10 years. I work with men in particular through organizations like Men Empowerment Network Support. I also work with young boys. I also work with, in terms of mental health as a mental health practitioner. So I do a lot of work with males in particular as it relates to their mental health.
And why is it important for us to have more conversations now around men's health?
And that's a very good question, Celia. And these are the stats. This is the real picture, right? Men are statistically less likely to seek help, even though they account for roughly 80% of all suicidal deaths. Nearly 1 in 5 men experience anxiety or depression, but yet, because of societal expectations and pressures, men often suffer in silence. So, why is it important to have this conversation? Because we need to get to a place of normalizing these conversations, not only to save the lives of men, but to save communities. Because when we impact on one man, we are actually impacting on a community. So we need to have these conversations and we need to be having them all now. Outside of the fact that it's mental health month and so on, we need to be having these conversations.
Yes, and as even when I listen to different podcasts and hear other men speak, the suicide rates for men has risen and definitely, like you said, well over that 50% mark and way more than women. So it's definitely very fitting for us to have the conversation.
No,
And from
realistically speaking though, Celia, women attempt more. So
mm,
women attempt suicide more, but men actually commit suicide at a significantly higher rate than women.
and from your experience, Shawn, what are some of the biggest mental and emotional struggles men face?
Hmm. Untreated depression for one. The challenge with depression and why I guess some men may not have it treated because in men, depression does not always manifest as being sad, this overwhelming sadness. Very often, it may manifest itself as anger or aggression. So we don't we then you will hear persons being asked, or I may be asked to assist somebody with anger management. But when we dig deeply, it's not that the person is angry, they can be experiencing depression,
Mhm.
loneliness. We may not necessarily say as loneliness because men may get to a place where they say, and you may have heard this statement a lot, I am just keeping my circle small.
Mm,
Heard that before?
yes.
And really and truly, it can be profound loneliness. Um, there's pressure on men to be performance driven and provider driven. And when a man does not feel as if he can provide or perform, he feels, insignificant and so on. So we need to have this conversation. And then men generally do not seek help. So there's a stigma around men seeking help. Now, I'm in a men's group, over 100 males by now.
Mm-hmm.
It's so difficult sometimes to get the men in that chat to openly admit to needing help. They can talk
Mm.
about anything, but when it comes to being vulnerable and requesting help, oh, that's a whole totally different story altogether.
And has there been in this same group though, has there been someone that stepped forward and said they needed help, and what was the approach? How did you guys receive that? And then what was the protocol to support him?
Yes, so we've had a few. We've had a few. In a couple of cases, we would have had to deal with some suicidal attempts as well. Once a man is willing to open up and say, yes, I need help, the,
Mm-hmm.
outside of myself, the group also has some other social workers and counselors and psychologists as well. So assistance is made for that person that they can come and get free. Members of the men's group itself can come and get free counseling, free treatment, free therapy, as a matter of fact. So the
Mm-hmm.
provision is there. And then we also provide this once a month opportunity for men to come out and have open conversations about what is happening and what is impacting on their mental health.
Earlier you said that, some men would say, I'm just keeping my circle
Circle small.
small.
Yeah.
How would you be able to spot some of the warning
Okay.
signs that someone may be mentally or emotionally overwhelmed?
In men, I can tell you this. In men, it is not as easy to spot, but these signs can be divided into three: behavioral signs, emotional or cognitive signs, and physical signs. When we talk about behavior signs, we talk about increased irritability and anger. So again, you see anger. And very often as men, that is the one emotion that we are taught to portray, anger.
Mm-hmm.
Snapping at minor things, short-temperedness, experiencing anger bouts, and seemingly these bouts being blown out of proportion. Social withdrawal, again, pulling away from friends, canceling plans. Again, this whole thing about keeping your circle small, you're wanting to just isolate for a bit and so on. Risky, impulsive behavior. All of a sudden, you're driving reckless or you're making unsafe choices in engaging in gambling and engaging in substance use and abuse. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, so all these are these are some of the signs that we see in terms of behavioral signs. In terms of emotional signs as well, because I spoke about that, there's a huge one, emotional numbing. So
Mm-hmm.
men, and I mean women too, but since we're talking about men can sometimes come across, and I know the word that they use a lot is stoic, very stoic in their approach.
Mm-hmm.
So extremely emotionally numb. So they show apathy, a loss of interest in furthering themselves. They're not motivated, difficulty focusing at work, so they're taking longer to do certain tasks and so on. And then don't even get me started on things like self-criticism and hopelessness. So they think very lowly of themselves. They become their worst critic.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of the physical manifestations, chronic fatigue, challenges sleeping, challenges with appetite, unexplained physical pain. So there's a book called The Body Keeps the Score. I was trying to remember the name of the book, where
Mm-hmm.
it really speaks about the fact that we experience or we feel stress in the body even before we pick it up in the mind. So if you can identify in yourself, in your body, where you experience stress and tension and so on, even if you don't pick it up in the mind, you can pick up in your body that something is definitely happening. So once we see these signs, these are signs that men may be going through something.
Mm. Well, that was loaded. Thank you for sharing that. And from a mindset and wellness perspective, how does mindset impact a man's overall wellness? performance, relationships, and decision making.
Overall wellness, performance, relationships, and decision making.
Mm-hmm.
It is extremely important. Mindset is crucial. You're into fitness and exercise. Um, would you say that when you were to train an individual, the mindset that they bring to the workout makes a significant difference on how they perform at the workout?
Absolutely. And for me, the work that I do, I don't want to work with people who have a negative mindset or they come in showing up, always complaining, they may want to
Yep.
do nothing. I'm not into that energy. So for me, even when I make decisions on in terms of who I train, the
Mm.
mindset has to be positive. The mindset has to be willing to want to do. They know that it may be a challenge, but they still have that willingness to do it.
And it's the same thing in terms of mental health and the mindset that you have in terms of your overall well-being. Your mindset basically directs everything, everything. It directs your influence even on your physiological health. It impacts your performance in terms of, there's a story that we learned as a child growing up about the little train, the little train that said, I can.
Yeah,
That makes a significant difference in persons. It makes a significant difference in terms of relationships
yeah.
as well, because your internal lens dictates how you communicate to people, how you show empathy,
Hmm.
how you think about people determines how you treat people. If you see them as in a negative light, you treat them in a negative light. If you see
Yes.
them in a positive way, you treat them positively. In terms of our decision making, um, mindset alerts us to when there's a risk versus reward.
Hmm.
Now, it's good to be optimistic and so on, but similarly, we need to be mindful of how we perceive stuff based on our mindset at the point in time.
Fantastic.
At the end of the day, we are trained to be, and when I do certain workshops, I ask this question all the time. So your background is in HR and sports and so on, representing Barbados at um, international levels with basketball and so on. So you did HR up to university level, to master's level. So here's my question. How much formal training does an individual get to be um, well, let's talk about men, to be a good boyfriend, a good husband, a good father? We go to school and we learn to be, well, I had to go UB to do my degree in social work and so on. You studied overseas. But how much formal learning do we actually get to engage in some of the most important roles that we would ever have? That is being a good boyfriend, a good husband, and a good father. Very little to none.
Yeah, so both male and female, we don't
Mhm.
get that formal training, but I think it comes down now to self-awareness and knowing where you are in life, where you want to be, and then going on the journey because it becomes discovery. You learn as you go, and
Yeah,
then as you learn as when you learn as you go, then you start to make other decisions or you start to put yourself in spaces. But none
Mhm.
of us don't have the formal training, but I think when you want it bad enough you will start to do things and position. But a lot of people already feeling wanting it bad enough is difficult to do, is
Yeah,
uncomfortable to do. So a lot of
yeah.
people just stay where they are.
They stay where they're comfortable.
Yeah,
Change is difficult. And again, in your job as a fitness instructor, it is easier for me to sit on the couch and eat chips than to get up 5 o'clock on the morning to meet you down Folkestone
yeah.
to work out and sweat.
Mm-hmm.
Change is never easy.
Correct.
That's why then that's another reason why we need to have the conversation with men, because women will have the conversation. They will have the
Yes.
conversation with their peers. They would have the conversation with their girlfriends, their sisters. They would go to therapy. They would have these conversations. Men would view having these conversations as a sign of weakness.
Weakness. Yeah.
So that's why we have to normalize having these conversations.
And not only normalize, but not make men feel guilty for for expressing themselves or being
Yeah,
able to be vulnerable, right? And again, being vulnerable too is a sign of weakness. But
yeah,
reality is, if we don't normalize these things, men are always going to stay in the shadows,
yeah.
right? So how do
Understand
men
that.
how
Sorry,
do
go ahead.
men decide that they're going to be confident enough to
Hmm.
step forward and say, I have a challenge, I need help, and not feel like the person now is going to discriminate against them or place a stigma against them for being honest?
Yeah, it starts by creating safe spaces for men to talk. Safe spaces in men's group. Safe
Yeah,
spaces in the barber shop. Safe spaces in the ram shop. Safe spaces in the home. So a man in the household should be allowed to feel and be able to be honest about his feelings. So he should be allowed to feel vulnerable. He should be allowed to have an off day, a day when things aren't going as well as he would want. A
yes.
man needs to understand that it is okay sometimes not to be okay. Men need to be allowed to take off the cape and recognize that today I don't have to be Superman. I could be and I put this in quotation marks, I could be a Lois Lane and I need saving. But I want the listeners to ask this, what if he did show you Lois Lane?
Mm-hmm.
How would you manage this man that you see? And in a lot of cases, we don't see Clark Kent, we see Superman.
Superman, yeah,
Kent. So
right,
I think it would have been okay if you see Clark Kent, but if you're seeing Superman and then one day you come home to Lois Lane, and I'm not thinking about this in a feminist way. I'm
right.
thinking about this in terms of a man allowing himself to be vulnerable, a man allowing himself to say to you, I need help. Because almost every episode of Superman that you watch, Lois Lane needs help at some point in time.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I thought a lot of the time that Superman's weakness wasn't kryptonite, it was Lois Lane. That's
Mm-hmm.
real weakness. So my thing is, what if a man for one day decide, I need help? How is he viewed?
I appreciate when a man does speak up for himself. And I think a lot of it is relationship. So if you have someone in your life that you consistently communicate and you share and you talk about the possibilities of things happening, right? I would hope that I am open enough to
Mhm.
receive what he's saying, because literally is already uncomfortable, right? That he's even putting himself out there. So I have to now be more open to
Mhm.
listening and wanting to help. But why,
Yeah.
as a woman, we have to catch ourselves to make sure now it's not right now about me. Like, this
Mhm.
person now needs my help, and I need to get
Yeah.
over myself and my feelings
Yeah.
and really focus in, zoom in on him. And it's something difficult to do, but I think it's important. Like, we
Yeah.
literally have to have that awareness that we need to show up for the men in our lives.
Yep. Especially when they want you to show up.
I want to get to this question from Keisha Payne. She asks, how do we adequately address the absence of male figures in the
Mhm.
lives of our young men to better equip them to live healthier lives mentally, emotionally, etc.? Great question.
Well, the issue or the discussion surrounding absentee men is one that's been going on for generations. One of the organizations that I associate with, Men Empowerment Network Support, we have actually just concluded a mentorship program, basically. Something called Mentor Him. It's a mentorship program specifically for males, understanding and recognizing that too many males are still absent in the lives of children, especially boys. Um, I would have grown up hearing, I would have heard people saying, women saying, I have been mother and father to this child. As good a job as you might have done as a single parent, a female cannot mother
Mm-hmm.
a child. Sorry, I cannot father a child. So we need to, and in the same group that I'm with, we try to get men to stand up a bit more and recognize their role in society and the importance of their role in society. Now, in doing that, we also got to realize that a lot of these men have not had a presence of a father figure in their life, and they just don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
They just know how to be. And a lot of them have been socialized to just put the money there and think that that is it. So they are the provider and they're the disciplinary, but they don't really sit down and build relationships. They don't know how to build relationships. So one of the things we're
Yeah.
looking to do then is to start by helping men to understand their role. So how do we deal with the absence of male figures? One, we start by dealing with men and helping men to understand the importance of their role in the lives of children. And then we also continue then by providing positive male role models for these boys in particular, because we're dealing with men who may not have the presence of a positive male role model in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that answers Keisha's question.
Great. Thank you. Are there any other practical ways that you can share to help men improve their mindset and overall well-being?
Sure. Well, there are a number of things. One, we need to create or develop some healthier practices. One of the things you can start by doing is being intentional on mornings. And when I say that, don't start the morning off on checking your phone for WhatsApp messages, for emails, and that type of thing. Start your morning off with meditation. If you're a Christian, Bible study, deep breathing, relaxation, all of these things do before you pick up your phone. Because when you pick up your phone, you can see a message that can send you straight into a tailspin.
Mm-hmm.
Move with purpose. Aim for 20 to 30 minutes of moderate exercise per day, walking, um, cycling, join Celia down Folkestone playing lawn tennis, which I plan to come and do one of these days. Practice mindfulness.
Mm-hmm.
Reset your nervous system, especially when the day is busy. You can take a minute to just sit, again, do breathing exercises. Grounding is so important as well.
I love that.
So,
Mm-hmm.
most importantly, I'd like suggest that men practice emotional intelligence. In other words, be able to name the emotion, be able to recognize the correct emotion that you're feeling, and be able to name it and be able to own it, and then be able to address it. You cannot really address your emotion unless you're able to identify it.
Yes.
So those type of things are things that I was trying to suggest. Develop a connection with other like-minded people. So I am in a number of chats, but one of the chats I'm in is with two former co-workers of mine. Both of them happen to be psychologists, and then the third person in that chat is just the person who talks a lot of nonsense to keep the chat lively and laughing and bubbly. And that is a safe space that I know that I have, that if needed, I can put in that chat, men, we need to chat. And they would come out.
Yeah,
They
and I
would,
love that. All that you shared, that symbolizes community, how
yes.
important it is to
Yeah.
have or be a part of community. And
Mm.
even for persons who are online, the people that I do things by myself, but the power of people, but the power of
Community.
positive people makes a difference.
Right.
And that's why I show up to tennis every Sunday because
Yes.
I love the community. It isn't just playing tennis, it's the
Mhm.
mindset and attitudes of the people that I'm in the space with, how we
Yeah.
look out for each other. Shawn, I know that you have a certification in psychological first aid and support.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Explain psychological first aid. Why is it important to families, workplaces, and communities?
Okay. So all right, to explain psychological first aid, I want you to think about medical first aid in the first place. So
Mm-hmm.
medical first aid is the first quote unquote medical assistance that you give to somebody with an injury until the ambulance comes. Let's say until the ambulance comes, right? Now think about psychological first aid in the same way. So
Mm-hmm.
it's an evidence-informed, humane practice where we assist individuals in the immediate aftermath of a distressing event. So, a crisis situation, and these events can either be an individual crisis or
Mm-hmm.
it could be a mass crisis. So, for example, you're at the bus stop, standing up one morning, waiting to catch the bus, and somebody pass and snatch your purse. Somebody will tell you, well, you ain't gonna freak out, at least you ain't having all your money and that kind of thing. But the trauma associated with that behavior is one that, if not addressed, can
Mm-hmm.
cause happiness down the road.
Yeah.
So a person trained in psychological first aid will be able to address you in a humane way, trying to figure out what you would need, or finding out from you what you would need in the moment to help you cope with this distressing situation, and to determine whether or not you may need further psychological assistance. So
Mm.
the idea is to help persons to negotiate or navigate through a distressing event. Understand that PFA, psychological first aid, it is not counseling.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it can be done by anybody who is trained to do it. So we don't need a specialized, you don't need to be a psychologist or social worker or anything to do it. Anybody can be trained to do it. It is done in the moment. But a crucial part of providing PFA is knowing when to link that person to
Mm-hmm.
professional services. So somebody, let's say that I was the person providing PFA for you in that circumstance, I would definitely link you to a counselor.
Right.
So we as persons providing PFA know when we meet a situation that is trying to remember the name of it now, slipped my mind. Anyway, when we meet certain situations, we know complex, sorry, that's it. When we meet a complex situation, having complex reactions and complex situations will be like what you experience. It could involve things like gender-based violence, it can involve abuse, those type of things. When we meet complex situations, we know that those are things that definitely we need to refer to professional counselors.
How can friends and partners and family members better support men who may be struggling?
Um, that is a very deep question. Situations like that require persons to be able to listen. One of the most important things is to be able to actively listen to what is being said, listen to what is not said, watch the body language, see whether or not the body language is actually aligning with what is being said, be patient, be practical, because reality is that social conditioning make it difficult for men to express themselves
Mm-hmm.
uh, and to be vulnerable. So when you create a safe, I'm going to use this word, a safe, non-judgmental space, it encourages men to open up. Ask specific questions. So this is one of the things I remember going to pay a bill one day, and I asked the lady, "How are you?" The woman who was behind the desk, and she said, "Not too good." And she said she did it purposely. She said I was like maybe the 11th or 12th person in there that she
Mm-hmm.
said not too good. And everybody else just said, okay, and went on. Nobody really listened
To
to
her,
the
yeah.
song. So when I say, oh, not too good, what happened? She was more surprised. So instead of asking, how are you? Which often just end up with the result of, oh, I'm okay, I'm fine. Try asking more pointed and targeted questions like, how have you been sleeping recently? Or how has work been treating you? Or how are the children behaving? And stuff like that. So ask more pointed questions that can provide you with a more direct answer. And sometimes do not accept, I'm fine.
Yeah.
It's not always, and in therapeutic circles, we don't take okay.
Yeah.
Somebody can say, I'm okay. Instead of saying to the person, let me know if there's anything I can do for you, offer a concrete solution. Let's go and have lunch. Let's go and have a meal or relax together. Let's go
Let's
play
go for
some
a
food.
walk.
Let's go for a walk.
Hmm.
Spend time with the person without any pressure. So
Yeah.
even if you don't necessarily have a conversation about what is bothering them, like in terms of this therapeutic conversation, have a conversation about anything as a friend. Because sometimes deep conversations happen side by side rather than face to face. That's why bartenders hear so much. That's why people in the barber shops hear so much. Because they're not, once a man feels as if he's being counseled, he may shut down. But
Hmm.
if he feels as if we just having a conversation, he may open up.
Yeah. Well, that's really good. Very deep. What would you say to a man who feels stressed, burnt out, lost, or emotionally exhausted?
Well, for starters, I don't know if I would start by saying anything as much as I might start by listening.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I wouldn't start by saying, I'm going to start by listening first. I would encourage the person to share openly, share honestly, listen without judgment, listen without trying to fix. And I myself am guilty of this, to be honest. I like to know that I am fixing something. Whereas sometimes people don't always want it fixed. They just want for you to listen. Weights feel heavy. A man may feel as if he's carrying the whole world. When I used to do the gym, sometimes if I try to push too heavy, at one time the trainer may take off some of the weight and then help me to push a lighter weight. Encourage him to drop some of the weight he's carrying.
Hmm.
Remind him that Rome wasn't built in a day, the world wasn't built in a day. And instead of trying to fix everything one time, fix one thing at a time. Start with something small. And fixing this small thing, it kind of, works as a catalyst to then go on to the next thing. Now, if you try to fix the big thing and you fail, that the side effect can also mean that you wouldn't even want to try the small thing. But if you might try the small thing and you succeed, then you continue trying, and before you know it, a lot of that weight is gone. In terms of burnout and loss, I have had to learn that instead of looking at loss as hopelessness, look at loss as an opportunity to be found.
Mm.
When we look at burnout, all a burnout says is that this path that you're on is no longer working. The reason why we continue in burnout and suffer in burnout is because we try so often to push through in a situation that may just require us to pause,
Yeah.
redefine, and really examine what it is that we are fighting for. So instead of looking at it in terms of negative, look at these things in terms of where can I go next? What can I learn? And in doing that, I learned a new trail and I ended up then on the right one.
Hmm.
But if I had given up and just walked back up the hill, I would not have gotten anything done. Help men to understand that their worth is not defined by what they do, solely by what they do, what they achieve. One of the two questions that I find that we ask a lot when we meet people, where you went to school and what you do for a living. And it seems as if life is defined by those two things, where you went to school and what you do for a living.
Yeah. And it's not.
And it's exactly, it's
Yeah.
not. It really is not.
Yeah, I
And
did a session tonight for entrepreneurs, and I said to them, I'm no longer my past, right? So
yeah,
something, yes, I played basketball for Barbados junior team and senior team, and left on a basketball scholarship, but
mhm,
nobody cares about that. You know what I mean? Like nobody who remembers that. It
yeah,
comes down to how are you showing up now,
yes. And this,
right? As people experience you,
mhm,
what will they say about you having
yeah.
interacted with you? So these things are great. You learn the lessons, you bring these strengths from your past, but it is what are you doing currently that will make a difference in your life. So
I also try to help men to recognize that a stumbling block
mhm,
can also be a stepping stone.
mhm,
The difference is how high are you willing to lift your foot?
mm, clock it.
Yeah. Be
um,
willing to lift your foot a few more inches, and you have created a stepping stone.
Correct. I've asked you questions about others,
Yeah.
but what about you, Shawn? What does holistic wellness personally mean to you?
Ooh. It means being able to be the best person it could be in body and mind. Because when we talk about health, we talk a lot about the physical health, but we don't pay attention to the mental health. So I look a lot at mental health and being able to achieve and realize my true potential. That's what it means for me. So recently I've started back doing some walking and to be I use situations as a motivation to help me walk. So my son is back in the island now for a bit.
Nice.
Um, and he's on, I think he's on still. I'm not sure if he was on earlier, I'm not sure if he's on still, but he has gigs. So every now and then he will need to borrow my car. Oh, he's still on.
Yay.
When I take the car for him, I use that as an opportunity to walk back. So being able to walk and spend that time listening maybe to music, maybe to motivational books, a podcast. I use that opportunity then to really open up my mind to new possibilities. Um, Sometimes I may do 5K because it's just about 5K between us.
Mhm,
Sometimes I may lengthen it and do 10 to 12K. People ask me if you're crazy.
mhm.
But for me, there's nothing more relaxing than having a nice, I call it a nice leisure 10K walk and just be listening to. So for me, that is what I do for my mental clarity outside of
Yes.
music, which I love to do. But yeah, yeah.
Awesome. And then for those who are online, similar to what Shawn is saying, holistic wellness is looking at your full life, taking care of your whole self. So you're not just saying, I'm going to work and make money and that's all I do. You have to
Mhm.
look at all the other aspects of your life. And if you are aware, here in Barbados, the Ministry of Labor, Social Security, and Third Sector, along with the Ministry of Health and Wellness, they've highlighted what we call the dimensions of wellness. So it's like you're breaking down your life into these different dimensions and you're paying attention to each of them. You may not be able to give all of them the same amount of time, but if
Mhm.
they're important to you, if they're priority to you, you want to make sure that you're giving them time. So I'm going to just highlight those nine, and then I want you to think about, based on where you are, based on where I am now, how much time am I giving to these elements in my life? Am I happy with how these areas are? Is there more work that I need to do? What work will I have to do? When will I do it? And I need to make it happen. So when you break down your life in the nine dimensions, there is physical wellness, there is psychological or mental wellness, there is intellectual wellness, there is spiritual wellness, there is social wellness, financial wellness, environmental wellness, cultural wellness, and I don't know if I said intellectual and occupational, but those are the nine areas. And you live these areas every day of your life. Sometimes you
Yep.
just don't focus on them the way that you should. Like when you're up against a wall, you focus. right. We don't want people to wait till they're up against a wall. How do you become more proactive with your life? How do you pay attention to how your life is going? How do you start to make intentional decisions? How do you give yourself more focus to improve yourself personally and professionally? If you're
Mhm.
on Instagram, follow Beijing Fusion, of course, that's my business. But we would also want you to follow Workplace Wellness BB on Instagram. So they highlight the dimensions of wellness, and they also encourage employers to implement wellness programming within organizations. So if your organization is on that journey of making sure that there's workplace wellness and they're installing different programs to support you, great. If not, this is an opportunity for you to share the National Workplace Wellness Policy with them. They have different documents and information on the website that can help to support the organization. And it's as simple too as persons from your organization reaching out to the Ministry of Labor and being able to say, we want the Ministry of Labor or the members from the committee to come in and speak to our staff about this wellness policy and how we can start to implement programming within the organization. What I also say to persons is your wellness is your responsibility, right? So as much as I am saying we want employers to do it, you can't wait on your employer either. You have to take charge of your own health. You have to take charge of your overall wellness. You have to take care of the career, the job that you're in. And if it isn't working for you, what is the next step? What is the next move?
Mhm.
Sean B said a lot today, and this is the
Yeah.
longest live I've done, right? So most of the lives are like 30 minutes, but this conversation was important, very crucial for us to have. And I am happy that you had the opportunity to really break down and give us clarity on
Mhm.
all of these different areas around men and men's health and their mindset. But
Mhm.
my question for you, you've obviously worked with Beijing Fusion for a few years.
Mhm.
Why do you think our fitness party, in observance of Global Wellness Day and Men's Health Month, why
Mhm.
you think is important for community wellness and men's health awareness?
Okay. So the in my opinion, right, the fitness parties, they break down barriers.
Mm,
The fitness parties get persons to come out, engage in activity, physical activity, movement that may not normally come out and do it. The last one that I worked with you with, the one for the ladies, when we saw the amount of persons that came out and supported that, even though the walk was short, people still enjoyed the walk, and then they came back and they had the energy to be involved in the very exciting exercise activities and the labels that you have for them. Um, so it is merging fitness, movement, education for sure. It's merging all of these things in a social setting. So you can bring out your boys and you can have this walk, you can have this fun. And even the little competitions that they had, like the plank challenge that I still can't get over yet with the 60-year-old. It was the lady that won the plank challenge, holding it for how long? 4 minutes or something?
no, 6 minutes. Like it was
Six
like
minutes.
six
Yeah, that
minutes.
was remarkable.
Yeah.
These activities, they bring togetherness. Um, Creating a fitness party, it lowers the barrier, the entry barrier. For example, a lot of people may not necessarily want to pay to go in a gym. And then the whole concept, the idea of going in a gym and actively training, but coming to a fitness party, they may be willing to come out. It helps overcome some of the stigma associated. So you're coming out, you're enjoying yourself while exercising. And the most important thing for me is the fostering of social accountability, basically. So you have persons coming together and encouraging each other. So one of the things that somebody who's very into fitness tells me all the time, that she's very mindful of who she gets to come and exercise with her, because she
Mm.
does not want somebody who can be making up excuses all the time, as opposed to just coming and getting. involve, because you know, I can tell you this, I can procrastinate quite well. Um, so very often I may tell myself, I'm going to start, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And very often I don't get to do it, but that's something I'm working on. And
Mm-hmm.
as I said to you earlier, I use the fact that I have to lend my son the car as the opportunity to take in that walk. So once I start there, then I can develop the healthy habit now of walking 2 to 3 times a day. And it works a lot better. I have a colleague who when I first started doing horsel, for example, first time I did it, it was a struggle doing it alone. But then he came out and did it with me. So we park at the top by the court. Then the first time I did it, I just went to the bottom of horsel. But with him, we went right down horsel, right down Bathsheba, circle, and came right back up. So having somebody there with you to do it, and then in that space, then being able to have conversations like a very informal side-by-side conversation about things that may be bothering us, as opposed to trying to sit and have a therapeutic session. We had more of a conversation, more of a realistic conversation in that space.
Mm-hmm. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for sharing that, Shawn. Isha said it was an informative session. Thank you both. You're welcome. Shawnee said great conversation. Anybody else? Any thoughts? Feedback is good. Shawn, you did an excellent job. Thank you so much for your time and your experience in adding value to the listeners, adding value to what we do here at Beijing Fusion. Shay said it was a great session, notes taken and concepts learned. Fantastic. And we love that. We love that people can gain information and not only gain the information, but being able to then to apply it to your lives personally and professionally. And David Reed said, thank you.